Capitol Hill was in disarray on Saturday, not only because of the impending shutdown, but because Democratic Congressman from New York, Jamaal Bowman, pulled the fire alarm in the Cannon House office building ahead of the vote on a stopgap measure to fund the government, forcing an evacuation. The congressman released a statement apologizing for the incident, explaining that it was an accident, writing, quote, "I want to be very clear, this was not me in any way trying to delay any vote. It was the exact opposite. I was trying urgently to get to a vote, which I ultimately did, and joined my colleagues in a bipartisan effort to keep our government open."
Despite Bowman's account, Republicans aren't buying it, and neither is congressional reporter for Punchbowl Jake Sherman, who took to X saying Bowman's statement made no sense, writing, quote, "1, have you in your life ever activated a fire alarm in a large public building to open a door? 2, there are tunnels that take you from this building straight to the Capitol. It's very easy. I do it daily." Meanwhile, New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez blasted the GOP's investigation into Bowman's mishap. Here she is yesterday on CNN's State of the Union. Let's watch.
But they're filing a motion to expel a member who, in a moment of panic, was trying to escape a vestibule. Give me a break. And so the idea that there is somehow any kind of equivalence to someone who is actively trying to clear up a situation that he himself admits he's embarrassed. He released a statement last night. He apologized. And they are protecting someone who has not only committed wire fraud, not only defrauded veterans, not only lied to congressional investigators, but is openly gloating about it, is absolutely humiliating to the Republican caucus.
Okay. On some level, it's humiliating to the entire country that this is like the discourse of the weekend. But let's get into it. Okay, so Jamaal Bowman's excuse is that he was rushing to get to this vote. He says, the fact that I voted for this stopgap resolution and that it passed makes it seem it's nonsensical that I would have somehow been trying to obstruct it. Like, what happened, what ended up happening is what I wanted to happen. So why would I have wanted to obstruct it by pulling a fire alarm? Moreover, I do think that when you look at the signage on the door, which I think we have and can show our audience, while I think it's silly to pull a fire alarm without giving it a moment's pause, I do think that this sign is genuinely confusing. So it says, first of all, it's not clear if you're going to read it push until alarm sounds or push alarm until sounds. But that aside, the idea being that to get the door open, it's an option to go ahead and sound the alarm and it'll unlock the door in an emergency. Again, I would presume that this was in an emergency, which he wasn't in. But, I mean, what do you make of this? What do you make of any of this?
I don't really think the sign is that confusing, to be honest with you. It's a nice excuse, but there's basically two scenarios, right?
Sure.
Either he was trying to stop the vote or he has the IQ of 70.
Which
is possible.
There's never a case, we were saying this before, the Occam's razor of congressional mishaps is Congress members were dumb.
Right. And I say this on the show all the time. Like, you can never overestimate how stupid politicians are. They're truly the dumbest people in America. And I found this report from Breitbart. They actually apparently have a couple of sources who are involved in the investigation. And they give some more insight into exactly what happened here. And it's pretty incredible. So the sign that you're referencing was, people were pointing out that it wasn't on the door in that security footage video of him pulling the fire alarm. But apparently that's because he actually walked up to the door and took them off himself and threw them on the floor. Then he leaned into the door and tried to open it. And when it didn't open after, however long it takes for it to unlock, he pulled the fire alarm. When the alarm starts going off, he doesn't stay and try to open the door again, because I guess he thought, pulling the fire alarm was going to open the door was his explanation. He runs in the opposite direction, goes down to the first floor of Cannon and exit out of a different door, and then made his way across the street to votes, at no point telling anybody, hey, I accidentally pulled the fire alarm. It's not an emergency. He waited until Capitol Police caught up with him to tell them what happened.
Yeah, it makes no sense. I do believe people get in these situations where they get genuinely confused and turned around with no bad intent. And I've also seen videos, there was like a classic like stupid criminal video that I saw some years back where someone had like robbed a convenience store or something and then kept trying to like pull the door to get out when he needed to push and just got stuck inside because they would not like push the door and they ended up getting arrested as a consequence. So like people in a panic do lose all sense of logic and reason. That is definitely true. But between the fact that he obviously didn't want the vote to be obstructed, like everything turned out the way he wanted it to happen, and the fact that I think there has been some blurring of the reality that he did not pull the alarm in the building where the vote was taking place. And I think we also maybe have a map showing the distance between the Cannon building and the Congressional building where the vote was happening. That if this were the plan, it was a bad plan. And also, what was the plan for him to keep a vote that he wanted to pass and that he contributed to passing from happening in the first place? I mean, what is the logic of his plan is as nonsensical as the logic of what he did.
Right, which to be fair, perhaps provides some more fodder for Republicans to want to do the investigation, because their point is, hey, if he was stupid enough to think that pulling a big red box with the word fire on it was going to open a door, then maybe he was stupid enough to have some harebrained scheme of stopping the vote from the Cannon building as well.
I suppose that's technically true. It wouldn't be a scandal on the internet if former President Donald Trump didn't weigh in. He posted an anger-filled tirade on Truth Social accusing Bowman of attempting to thwart the stopgap vote, writing, quote, "It was a very dangerous obstruction of an official proceeding, the same as used against our J6 prisoners. Actually, his act may have been worse. He must suffer their same fate. When will his trial begin?" Are you holding out for the trial, the prosecution of one Jamaal Bowman?
We deserve it. We honestly deserve it. This is an excellent troll job by Trump, though. It's obviously what that is, bringing up the January 6th investigation. It's classic Trump.
Well, he's not the only one. A number of Republicans have made this analogy, and it's not clear to me that all of them are doing it in jest. This does seem to be an effort to make the case for an equal justice system that is disproportionately targeting Republicans, the way that they've been saying is true of Donald Trump and his 4 indictments throughout. And, you know, I do think it says something very real and kind of dispiriting about our confidence in government, the confidence in the criminal justice system, and the perception of equity therein. I don't know what to do about that. I don't think it's good for us to have increasingly like a ratcheting up of the criminal justice system in response to overreach. I think if anything, the argument should be this is exactly why we should bring the temperature down.
Let's go the other way.
Have
right.
less mass incarceration and less political prosecutions, fewer political prosecutions. But hey, Donald Trump is going to Donald Trump on Truth Social, and you're right, it is a pretty solid troll.
Well, maybe we can just hold Jamaal Bowman to the standard of the school that he was a principal for. You know, a week suspension, expulsion in the worst case. I'm fine with that. Seems fair.
Oh, well, all right. Let us know what you think about this. Stick around for more Rising after this.